Welcome to In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. On a Sunday night actually, I'm being enamored by the smell of wife getting dinner prepared for tomorrow. Beef stew. Can't wait. Anyway, we got a lot of headline news to get to. For one, we are going to be looking at 2022-23 bowl games. College football playoff bracket set. Who's in, who's out. And of course, the news that everybody is buzzing about. So, I want to take the time to welcome you into the zone with Anthony. And let's get cranking in the zone. So the news today is, will he or won't he? Talking about Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. I guess we should have known something was up when the initial report said that if he signs a deal, he wants to have a say in this or a say in that. But we will come back to that story a little bit later. I want to take a look at the college football playoff bracket. The college football playoff rankings for 2022 official committee poll for final week. Despite some contrived Alabama discussion and Crimson Tide head coach Nick Saban making seemingly desperate lobbying appearances on any network that would have him Saturday, there was little doubt who the four college football playoff teams would be when the selection committee made its announcement Sunday. The only real drama was whether TCU would be the number 3 seed or whether Ohio State would move up and set up a rematch with arch rival Michigan. Here is how it all shook out. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, TCU. Number 4, Ohio State. Do I really need to read the rest of it? Just for the sake of it, I will. Number 5, Alabama. Sorry, Coach Saban, you're not in the playoffs. Everything else I read is anticlimactic. 6, Tennessee. Number 7, Clemson. Number 8, Utah, who knocked USC out of any playoff contention. Number 9, Kansas State. And number 10, yep, you guessed it, USC. And I think the way it's setting up right now, just for the sake of people here in my area, those Kansas State Wildcats who knocked off TCU look like they would be playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Unfortunately, it appears that some Alabama players already are saying if they're not playing for a championship, they're not playing in a meaningless bowl game. So the question is, who will this bowl benefit? Kansas State or Alabama? And the fact that they have to get someone ready at the quarterback position being one for next season. But the way the bracket is looking, it looks like there's going to be number 1, Georgia against number 4, Ohio State. Thus, you will not see a rematch of Michigan and Ohio State because it looked like number 2, Michigan, will be taking on number 3, TCU. However, that could still happen though, albeit it would have to line up like this. Number 2, Michigan would have to knock off number 3, TCU, and number 4, Ohio State would have to knock off number 1, Georgia. Of course, that's why they play the games. The games are played between the lines. Who am I? I am just someone who is doing a podcast. So it was all so straightforward heading into conference championship weekend. Georgia, by virtue of going undefeated in the daunting SEC, and Michigan with the most impressive win of the season over Ohio State on the road and a victory over Penn State to go with it, were locks regardless of the outcomes in their respective conference title games. TCU was fairly close to lock status considering it had already defeated Kansas State, this Big 12 championship game opponent. And USC was a win over Utah away from securing the fourth and final spot. Utah had other plans. The Utes not only ended USC's Pac-12 title hopes Friday, but they destroyed any real argument for the Trojans to make the 14 playoff with a dominant 47-24 win. While USC quarterback and potential Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams was dealing with an injury, Utah dominated at the line of scrimmage. The Trojans' defense also seemed to have no interest in actually tackling someone, which was a problem that haunted the unit at times all season. USC's loss was Ohio State's gain, as the Buckeyes were number 5 in the penultimate CFP poll and hoping for some chaos to gain an entry. There is something to be said about Ohio State benefiting from not playing on conference championship weekend, but all 11 of its wins came by double digits. Its only loss was to the number 2 Wolverines, and a road win over number 11 Penn State stands out compared to the resumes of USC and Alabama. The drama wasn't done, though, as TCU lost a heartbreaker to Kansas State in overtime with the Big 12 title on the line. If there was a silver lining for the Horned Frogs, it was the fact the game came down to the final snap. A blowout loss may have opened the door for a more convincing politicking from Alabama, but the Crimson Tide have an extra loss compared to every contender and did not stack a number of impressive wins together. Their best win was likely by 1 point over a 4-loss Texas team that was without quarterback Quinn Ewers for most of the game. TCU also defeated the same Longhorns by 7 in a game Ewers played from start to finish. Alabama's loss to LSU also looked worse as the season progressed, as the Tigers fell to 5-7. Texas A&M, as the Tigers fell to 5-7 Texas A&M and were completely dominated by Georgia on Saturday. Tennessee, which also defeated Bama, didn't help either by giving up 63 points in a loss to South Carolina on November 19th. An argument can be made that Alabama's 2 losses came down to the final play, but it barely snuck past Texas A&M, and Ole Miss in 3 of its wins. It could just as easily be 8-4 or even 75 as much as 12-0 if a few plays unfolded differently. Now the arguments and lobbying are over, and attention turns to the actual games, with the biggest question being, will anyone challenge the reigning champion Bulldogs as they look to hold on to their crown? In some other news, and we will get to the major headline, how about Clemson QB DJ Uiagalelei reportedly expected to enter the transfer portal? The DJ Uiagalelei era may be over at Clemson. Chris Hummer of 24/7 Sports reported the Tigers quarterback is expected to enter the transfer portal. Entering the portal doesn't preclude Uiagalelei from returning to the program, but his days were effectively numbered after he got benched for Cade Klubnik in the ACC championship game on Saturday. Klubnik finished 20 of 24 for 279 yards and 1 touchdown as Clemson beat North Carolina 39-10. After the game, head coach Dabo Swinney confirmed the true freshman will start the Orange Bowl on December 30. Moving forward, Cade will be our starter going in, and DJ will be the backup, and we'll keep moving forward, he told reporters. For many Tiger fans, the change was long overdue. One fan tweeted, "I think Dabo cost Clemson a playoff spot by sticking with DJU. Expectations for Ugalele couldn't have been much higher than when he took over as the full-time starter in 2021. He was replacing Trevor Lawrence, perhaps the greatest QB in program history. And his brief cameo when filling in for Lawrence in 2020 only added to the hype. Not to mention the comparison to Cam Newton had been made before he ever took a college snap. Instead, Ugalele might become a bit of a cautionary tale. As a sophomore, he threw for 2,246 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, while completing just 55.6% of his passes. His work on the ground, 308 yards, 4 touchdowns, wasn't enough to compensate for his struggles as a passer. The 6'4", 235-pound signal caller improved in 2022, but still didn't reach an elite level. Assuming he doesn't suit up in the Orange Bowl, he'll finish with 2,521 yards, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, along with 545 rushing yards and 7 scores. A change of scenery should benefit Ugalele, although he's a bit of a project. He should be on the radar for Power 5 schools looking to address an immediate need at quarterback. His size and skill set will be enough to convince a head coach he can thrive in the right offensive scheme. For Clemson, his departure will mean avoiding any sort of quarterback controversy. It's full steam ahead with Klubnik in 2023. The Tigers have a commitment from Christopher Vezina to provide additional depth at the position. Vezina is the 6th best quarterback and number 27 overall player in 24/7 Sports composite rankings for the 2023 class. So, what I am going to do right here, I am going to take a break, and when I come back, I will have some more news for you. So you are locked in the zone with Anthony. Stay tuned. Don't you go nowhere. Be right back. Welcome back to In the Zone. Yep, it's yours truly, Anthony Smith. And the news that everybody's been waiting to hear. And I have to say, he handled this a whole lot better than what one LeBron James did when he made the decision. He let us know weeks in advance, at least this week. He said he will make a decision on Sunday as to where his next move will be. Let me set the narrative. He went to Jackson State in his first year, which was a shortened season, a COVID season. They played an abbreviated schedule the next season after an outgoing number of players transferred out and an influx came in. And on top of that, flipped the number one recruit. They went 11-2. Then this past season, they finished up 12-0. Played in the SWAC championship game. Then on Sunday, Deion Sanders says CU Buffs will out-recruit rest of country. Starts with 5-star commitment and naming his son as QB1. So this story is coming from the Denver Post. Deion Sanders hadn't even been formally introduced as the CU head coach, and he already had a blue chip recruit in his pocket. Sunday morning, the Buffs picked up a commitment from 5-star receiver Winston Watkins Jr. Then in the afternoon, at a packed press conference inside the Dow Ward Athletic Center, Sanders told his son Shedeur Sanders to stand up as QB1. "This is your quarterback," Sanders said. "He's going to have to earn it, though." Shedeur Sanders threw for 6,614 yards and 66 touchdowns over the past 2 years, leading Jackson State to consecutive SWAC championships as an underclassman. Watkins, meanwhile, said Coach Prime is why the IMG Academy Florida star chose CU over the likes of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Tennessee. It's a good start for Sanders, who proclaimed in his opening statement that we're going to out-recruit the rest of the country. Commitments are already coming on the way as I speak, he said. But Sanders also emphasized that in a college football landscape now defined by name, image, and likeness, those commitments are going to come at a price for university boosters. To this point, CU's behind in leveraging NIL deals to help attract top recruits and transfers. The kids, they want exposure. They want to be on television. They want the big lights in action. We're going to give them that, Sanders said. We're going to give them the followers. We're going to give them the attention. We're going to give them the love and support. And we need each and every one of the CU donor base. Because the caliber of players that we're getting ready to bring to you, they're going to want something. To that point, in Sunday's news conference, CU Chancellor Phil DiStefano outlined changes in the university's transfer credit review process that will provide expedited assessment of the transferability of academic credits from other institutions to be accepted at CU Boulder. Translation: there will be less red tape for Sanders to get his desired transfers into school and immediately qualify. This not only promises benefits to all potential student-athlete transfers, but also Colorado residents who decide to go to another university but want to come back to Boulder to finish their degree, DiStefano said. This new initiative, combined with the NIL Collective, will set our football program up for long-term success. While Sanders promised winning, he declined to put a timetable on when. The immediate question in-state becomes whether Coach Prime can start keeping Colorado's handful of blue-chip prospects each year from continually going to Power 5 programs elsewhere. Former CU tight end and Thomas Jefferson alum Daniel Graham believes that with Sanders' personality and reputation, top high school players both in Colorado and around the country will be seriously considering coming to CU. The elite local athletes, they're going to start staying here, Graham said. We're no longer going to lose to Christian McCaffreys or top Colorado players like that. And with Coach Prime coming in here and the name recognition that brings, there's going to be a swell of players signing or transferring here. I look at us doing what USC did this year under new coach Lincoln Riley next year. How they went from 4-8 to the Pac-12 title game. It's a possibility. So there you have news on the hiring of Deion Sanders and the heightened expectation that is already starting to come with it. Such a buzz around this program that hasn't been seen in years. So what else can we say goes along with this news? Well, let's just take a look. Deion Sanders says son Shedeur will be Colorado's QB after leaving Jackson State. Deion Sanders just took over as head coach at Colorado, and he appears to already have his starting quarterback for the 2023 season. At his introductory press conference after being named to the position, Sanders indicated his son Shedeur would join him in Boulder, Colorado, and suit up for the Buffaloes. Chris Hummer of 24/7 Sports noted Shedeur Sanders hasn't officially entered the transfer portal, which opens Monday, but that his transfer from Jackson State is considered a foregone conclusion. Sanders has thrown for 3,383 yards and 36 touchdowns while running for 174 yards and 5 touchdowns this season. It's unclear whether he intends to play in the Celebration Bowl on December 17th, which pits Jackson State against North Carolina Central. His transfer could have a domino effect for Colorado's quarterback situation. J.T. Shrout, who transferred from Tennessee in 2021, just finished up his first year under center for the Buffaloes with 1,220 yards and 7 touchdowns. He was the team's leading passer. Sanders' imminent arrival might have Shrout evaluating all of his transfer options. True freshman Owen McCown already announced his intentions to enter the portal, and there is seemingly no chance he'll walk back that decision now. McCown finished with 600 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in his 4 appearances in 2022. Sunday's press conference illustrated how Coach Prime intends to hit the ground running. Colorado, which has 5 10-loss seasons since 2006, is a massive rebuilding project. In the era of NIL and the one-time transfer rule, a program can be rejuvenated with just one off season. And that's what the Buffaloes intend to do with Sanders. There may not be a program that hits the transfer portal harder than Colorado, and it has a coach who can potentially bring elite talent to Boulder. Bruce Feldman at Bruce Feldman CFB never seen a coach's introductory press conference quite like the one Colorado just had. There is no coach who could fire up a beleaguered fan base any better than Deion just did. He's made CU football nationally relevant again immediately. Pat Ford at by Pat Ford. First reason why hiring Deion is a great move. Nobody can even remember the last time there was a buzz around Colorado football. At least Sanders can cross off the quarterback position for now. So the other questions that will be remaining now will be, what's left for Jackson State? Who does Jackson State bring in to keep what Deion Sanders started rolling? That will be some reports I will be keeping my eye out for as this situation continues to unfold. So there's the news you've been waiting to hear. Deion Sanders, new head man, Colorado Buffaloes. Once again, the question is, can he turn this around? And how long will it take for him to get this turned around? Tell you what I'm going to do right about here. I'm going to take one more break and come back and put a wrap on this. So Stay locked in the zone with yours truly, Anthony. There is more to come. So see you on the other side of this break. Welcome back. Welcome back once again to another segment. Most likely my last segment. Yeah, leading you back in with a little bit of Christmas music in the zone as we are in the month of December, and each day that passes by we're getting closer to the Christmas holiday. So kind of wanted to get you in the mood with a little bit of that good old Christmas music. And I know in the first segment we talked some college football. We looked at the bowl projections. We looked at Deion Sanders hiring. But there is one person in particular who has some high praise for Colorado's hiring of Deion Sanders. There would be one Paul Feinbaum. And I'm going to attempt to pull that audio up right now.
Sanders going shoulder to shoulder at Boulder to restore the glory there at Folsom Field. What do you make of the move?
This is one of the most dramatic college football hires in many, many years, and give Colorado all the kudos for going outside the box and not just going to the list of usual suspects like others did recently and hire retreads and guys who have been shunned away and had to sit out and rehabilitate. They hired the most dynamic coach in the country, and while this is not a very good job, in fact, it's a terrible job, Deion Sanders said, you know what, I'm going to try to do out there what I did at Jackson State and energized a league and a community, and I think he's got a reasonable chance of doing it. It won't be easy, but if anyone can, it's Deion Sanders.
SWAC championship yesterday, 27-5 is his record as the Jackson State head coach in just 3 seasons. Boulder.
So yes, there you have it. And I know I had a lengthy report in the first segment, but guess what? I'm going to give you another lengthy report because part politician, part preacher, part pitchman, Deion Sanders fired up a crowd of alumni, boosters, former players, and other VIPs celebrating his hire as Colorado's coach on Sunday. He spewed motivational sayings that he promised will soon adorn the walls inside the complex at Folsom Field, and he vowed to lead the bedraggled Buffaloes back to prominence after going 27-5 in 3 seasons at Jackson State. He went on record to say, I have the best coaching staff assembled, some of the best scouts, some of the best kids that we're recruiting, some already coming on the way as I speak, Sanders told the crowd of hundreds who whooped and hollered at his answers from among the dozens of reporters at his introductory news conference. And now that I've gotten here, I see it and understand it, and I can grasp it, and I can touch it, I can feel it, I can taste it. I truly understand what you want. All you want is the opportunity to win, to compete, to dominate, to be among the elite, to be among the best. And darn it, I'm going to give you that. But here's the classic thing about him. He says, but first, he reminded everyone, I have work to finish in Jackson, Mississippi. Sanders said he will coach the unbeaten Tigers in the Celebration Bowl, the championship for historically black college football programs, on December 17th. Then he could turn his attention entirely to resuscitating the Buffaloes program. So, What are some of the expectations and challenges? Let's just take a look at that. Deion Sanders' coaching career has reached the highest level of college football in a surprising destination in Colorado. Sanders, the Pro Football Hall of Famer who transformed Jackson State's program the past few years, was named Colorado's new coach Sunday night. After interviewing for several Power 5 jobs in recent years, Sanders' ascent to the FBS seemed like only a matter of time. But rather than remaining in the South, where Sanders spent most of his playing career and his entire coaching career, he's headed to a completely new region with the mission of reviving a once elite program, an elite Colorado program that has faded from view for much of the past 20 years. Not only will Coach Prime energize our fan base, I'm confident that he will lead our program back to national prominence, Athletic Director Rick George said in announcing the hire. Sanders has been viewed as the perfect coach for the current college football climate, in which the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness are king. He is a historic hire in many ways, including Colorado's third consecutive black coach, a first for a Power 5 program. But can he boost a program that is 89-152 since 2003 season? ESPN's Adam Rittenberg, Andrea Adelson, and Paola Uggetti and Jean Jacquez Taylor of Anscape analyzed the Sanders hire and what it means for Colorado. Why Colorado? Paola Uggetti. Since 2011, Colorado has finished in either last or 11th place in the Pac-12 10 times. But the program has plenty of intrigue and potential due to its history and location. It is an ideal landing spot for a coach like Sanders, whose fast rising reputation as a head coach, recruiter, and perhaps most importantly, face of a program was going to garner him a Power 5 job sooner rather than later. Colorado has lagged behind its peers in nearly every category, and at the very least, the Buffaloes needed an injection of energy. Sanders will bring that and more, including a real recruiting advantage and an ability to institute a culture that will stand out in the Pac-12. Any success in Boulder will be received with open arms, and because Colorado has made a home out of the conference cellar over the past decade, Sanders has the ability to surpass expectations quicker here than at other big-time programs. Adam Rittenberg. Sanders has interviewed for Power 5 jobs the last few years at TCU and Arkansas, but ultimately needed an opportunity. Although he has never worked in Colorado, the program has shown with the right coach and recruiting approach, it can compete nationally. Colorado needs to recruit Texas, a state where Sanders lives, and should provide immediate upgrades. His overall name recognition will completely reshape Colorado's brand, which needs a boost as somewhat of a forgotten program in the Pac-12. Colorado is one of few Power 5 programs with a decent history of hiring black coaches. The school has become the first Power 5 program to ever hire 3 consecutive black coaches. 4 of the past 5 Buffalo coaches are black. Andrea Adelson. I think the better question is why Sanders? There is an easy answer here. Colorado needs its program jump-started, and gaining a coach with the name recognition and clear recruiting chops Sanders possesses is absolutely huge. Just look at what Sanders did in flipping the number 1 recruit in the country last year, Travis Hunter from Florida State, to Jackson State on signing day. We all know how far behind Colorado has fallen in the Pac-12, but bringing in a coach with the brand Jackson has will immediately make Colorado relevant again in the minds of recruits. Jackson has nowhere to go but up with Colorado, and in all honesty, that lessens the pressure to win right away that would exist at a school in, say, the SEC. Jean Jacquez Taylor. Sanders needed only 2 full seasons to make Jackson State the jewel of the Southwest Athletic Conference. The Tigers went undefeated in the conference for the second consecutive season, and they are 23-2 in their past 25 games. Jackson State had only 1 victory by a margin of fewer than 10 points this season, so Colorado is about accepting a bigger challenge. The Pac-12 is not nearly as daunting with USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. The bigger budget a Power 5 program provides will allow Sanders to maximize his strength, such as recruiting. So what are the year 1 expectations? Uggetti had this to say: "This is not going to be a 1-year overhaul like the likes of what Kalen DeBoer and Lincoln Riley just pulled off at Washington and USC, respectively. Those coaches took teams coming off 4-8 seasons and led them to double-digit wins. And that's not because of Sanders' ability as a head coach, but rather because rebuilding this Colorado program will take more than just a couple of changes and additions. An open floor plan isn't going to solve this issue. The Buffaloes need to break out the bulldozer. Sanders feels like a hire who's going to be more willing than most to tear it all down. For year 1, perhaps the bar should start here. Don't finish last in the Pac-12. Rittenberg said Colorado roster is in really bad shape. The team had an exodus of good players to the transfer portal last winter, and it's happening again. Sanders likely will retain certain players, and he will immediately make Colorado a destination for transfers, including some of his best players from Jackson State. The team couldn't get much worse than this season when it was outscored 534 to 185. Sanders will need more than 1 recruiting cycle to fix things, but a moderate improvement is quite possible in the potential era. Bowl eligibility could be a tough ask in year 1, but Sanders will completely change the atmosphere around the program and upgrade the talent level. Adelson had this to say: "If Colorado plays more competitive games and gains the type of exposure this program has been lacking for the past 2 decades, the season should be considered a success no matter how many wins Sanders gets in year 1. Do not underestimate how important that type of exposure is if Colorado is making games more interesting and fun. A 3.5-hour walking billboard for what is possible. It did not take long for Sanders to start winning at Jackson State, and though this will be a much more difficult transition, I'm not going to rule out anything." And Taylor had this to say: "The biggest challenge for Sanders at Colorado is simply making the roster better and upgrading the talent. Former linebacker Nate Landman, who earned second-team All-Pac-12 honors, was the only first or second-team All-Conference player on the Buffaloes last season. Sanders is adept at social media marketing, so it shouldn't take him more than 2 years to overhaul the roster through the transfer portal and recruiting. He has some dynamic recruiters on his staff, and he's going to be one of the best closers in the country." So there you have more news on Deion Sanders hiring at Colorado. It is the big news in college football landscape. Yes, we do have college football playoff talk that we've already touched on, but this here is definitely the big news, because me personally, I was saying I think the better job would be for him to go to Cincinnati, especially with Cincinnati going to the Big 12, a more stable program, going to a stable conference, as opposed to going to a conference that's losing its big-time players. But hey, Sanders proved at Jackson State you can dominate where you're at, and I believe he wants to come into Colorado. You're losing 2 players. You still have your Colorado team. You still have Oregon. You still have those Arizona schools. You have Utah. Sanders knows Texas. If he can recruit some Texas players, some blue chip Texas players to come out to the cold state of Colorado, all you have to say is look at what he did when he flipped Travis Hunter, the #1 recruit, to come to Jackson State. Only thing that prevented Jackson State from playing against the big boys, Sanders said it best like this: we got the skill position players. We don't have those big hogs up front. That all changes because now he's going to Colorado. Once again, he's going to have the skill position players, but now he'll also be able to get the hogs up front to compete at any level. Well, I just want to say it's been a blast being in the zone. Hope you have enjoyed being in the zone with Anthony. I will have some more to come in the days and weeks to come. But as I always say, always stay locked in the zone. Until the next time, stay locked in, stay blessed. Yours truly, Anthony Smith.